information. It still requires that people seek the information, they see it, and they actually act on it. But to give you an idea of what effect this might have, first of all, to give you an effect, the cost to change all these labels is going to be $2 billion. That means that there's a lot of labels that need to be changed, and you're going to see that demonstrated here in a section from one of Robert Lustig's books. Barry Popkin of the University of North Carolina states that of the 600,000 food items for sale in the U.S., 80% have added sugar in them. 90% of the food produced in the U.S. is sold to you by a list of the conglomerates you're going to see there. Just to give you an idea of the big business nature of it. I mean, there are some foods that are drastically going to have to change. Like people who, to eat healthy, will eat yogurts. And that fucking shit is loaded with added sugar, and you never knew it because it just said sugar, and you say, oh, it's got blueberries in it. No, it's got added sugar in it, and you're going to find that out by 2018 when they finally put this into effect. It takes a while, unfortunately. But this is incredibly significant, and long-term, if we want to deal with one of the biggest problems financially that we have in this country, which is our overpriced health insurance industry, the reason we pay so much for health insurance, well, there's a lot of reasons, but one of them is the chronic conditions that we have and that other societies are starting to have. Diabetes, heart disease, cancer, stroke, and those sorts of things later on. Sugar is one of the leading reasons that people develop those sorts of conditions afterward. This is not going to cure all of our ills. This is one of the things we need to take out of our diet. There are many things we need to put back in our diet, but this at least gets us part of the way. And right now, many Americans eat about 5 times the amount of sugar that they currently consume, according to a professor of medicine, and far more than we did just a couple of decades ago. When we had that national campaign to get fat out of our food because we falsely believed that it led to heart disease, they reacted by putting sugar into foods. And so we were unfortunately doing the damage we were trying to avoid. If you think that it's just about obesity, and if you're not currently obese, so you're not worried about that, sugar has other effects on the body as well. I mean, go and read as much as you can about this, but just a quick overview of a few. Creates a cycle of intense cravings, causing you to want to consume more of the product that it's in. It impairs memory and learning skills, causes or contributes to depression and anxiety, is a risk factor for age-related cognitive decline and dementia. We also have a couple of charts that are going to show you the current states of obesity, both for adults and for children. Now, in our research, thankfully, you can bring those up, by the way. In our research, so Jen Roofer, who's the associate producer of the Young Turks, found that thankfully childhood obesity has shockingly actually gone down. If we can jump ahead to graphic 15, you're going to see that obesity rates among 2 to 5-year-olds fell from 14% to 8%. Because 2 to 5-year-olds, 14% of them were obese back in 2003 to 2004. So anytime you hear anyone make a case that it's that people aren't exercising enough, it's that they don't have willpower. They just go out and they eat the foods they want. 2-year-olds are not choosing what foods they want, and they're not like, oh, I don't feel like going and playing baseball. It's the shit that's added to their food, and this is one step to healing some of it.
You know, that they were obese. That was from 2003. So maybe a lot of those kids were emotionally eating because of 9/11.
It was depressing, yeah. And thankfully, soft drink consumption has gone down quite a bit over the last decade, and that is one of the principal places that people get sugar. But once they get rid of that, they might think that they're in the clear, and they're not, as that list of the 600,000 products.
And you know, but here's another thing too. Now we don't understand a lot of people still go Diet Coke, diet drinks, and we don't. They say they know the effects of the artificial sweeteners, but I don't think they do. In fact, we've reported on it before what it took to get NutraSweet passed, right? And they had to get Don Rumsfeld to get the thing, and right? Remember that? And because they kept doing the research, and after 3 years, they cut open the rats, and there'd be tumors all over them. So they decided to use the studies that cut them open after 2 years, right? So we don't want to look at them after 2 years. They're fine. After 3 years, they're full of tumors.
Yeah.
So anyway, my point is, they've also done studies, right? We've reported it on this show that people who drink diet sodas end up gaining just as much or more weight, right?
Yeah. Partially it's because I think that the effect of aside from the cancer and all that stuff, I think that it affects your body in the same way as regular sugar. It makes you want to consume more, and at the same time, you believe that you're consuming fewer calories, so then you go out and you eat more calories. So it's really like a double whammy, the diet sodas.
All right, last thing on this. John mentioned that the sugar companies are thinking of suing. If Barack Obama also gets his way and the Trans-Pacific Partnership passes, they could actually sue us not in U.S. courts, but in international tribunals run by lawyers that circulate throughout the industry, so who would have an incentive to rule in favor of the industry. So they could take us to an international tribunal and then say, no, you're not allowed to pass legislation that tells you how much sugar is in the food because. But wait a minute, our courts didn't rule on it. No, you have a trade agreement that your courts are irrelevant. So now, not only can you not do that, but you've got to pay the sugar company damages for the profits that you cost them. So that's why we fight against the TPP. Yeah. So Barack Obama, congratulations! You got Michelle Obama happy. You got her the labeling. I'm happy about it. Good job. But if you get the TPP passed, it'll probably take this out along with everything else. So, way to go. Way to support corporate domination over all of this. Okay.
Thanks for the downer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to get some comfort foods.
Isn't it weird too that they argue over the measurements? Like they use grams, and nobody really knows how much a gram is really, unless you're doing coke. But people know how much a teaspoon is,
they have an
right?
idea, yeah.
But they won't. But the industry's like, no. It's like they want to.
It's still about hiding the information, but yeah, that's true.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to a somewhat related story.
It's somewhat related. Okay, this could have helped him if it only passed from that good to go. If Chris Christie thought that joining Donald Trump's campaign would lead to him finally getting a bit of respect from the man, he apparently doesn't know Donald Trump at all. Watch.
I can tell you this. When Carrier and Ford and Nabisco leaving Chicago with their big plant, they're moving to Mexico. I'm not eating Oreos anymore. You know that. But neither is Chris. You're not eating Oreos anymore. No more Oreos for either of us, Chris. Don't feel bad for either of us. But I'll tell you what, folks.
A raucous laughter there. Poor guy.
It's like, you know what was the worst part when he said, don't feel bad, Chris, for either of us. Like, we know you have the problem. That's why they're all laughing. That's why I said it. But no, I didn't mean it for either of us, Chris. Right?
Exactly what he did to Megyn Kelly. I'm not really bullying you. You're not going to, make a big deal out of it, are you? You're the problem, not me.
God, it's wonderful to see Chris Christie so thoroughly demeaned. Right? Like, no Democrat could have done this to Chris Christie. But he did it to himself. He's like, yes, sir, I will serve you, sir. The Mr. Trump, what do you need? Right? Okay, hey, it takes an Oreo cookie and smashes it in your face. Hey, Fatso, you're not going to eat this anymore, right? And everybody laughs. That's what you get for joining the bully and licking his boots. Enjoy that. No more Oreos for you, just Donald Trump's boots.
Yeah. Now, on the other hand, he is getting paid well for the disrespect that he's getting from Donald Trump. That speech was at a fundraiser to clear his campaign debt. So Donald Trump is going to pay off his campaign debt. So look, you get that at least.
Yeah, he at least gets those goodies.
Exactly.
Okay, what a politician wouldn't do for money.
Exactly.
It's amazing that Chris Christie would hug Obama and get everybody to hate him because he did that, and he knew that was coming. And then here he is hugging Trump, getting the rest of the country to hate him. It's funny, right? It's like now he's funny. He makes sure everyone hates me before I leave, and I'm super diminished.
Yeah.
That's forever and ever he will be diminished now because of this.
Yeah, and he should be.
Well, 3 strikes and you're out. I mean, he was really out on the first one, but when he stood behind Trump in that famous press conference, and the famous Johnny impersonation of him, and he looked like such a henchman.
Yeah,
like the only thing he was missing was the tracksuit, like a Gumba from Jersey, right? And so like, oh yeah, go get him, Donald. Yeah, hey everybody, listen up to Mr. Trump over here. He's talking, right? So then the second was when he was caught on mic. Trump was saying, hey, "Get on the plane, go home."
Yeah. Oh, I forgot.
Yeah,
plane's right there.
Plane's right there. Come out of here. Go home. Your usefulness has now come to an end. Get on the plane, go home, right? And now, hey, no more Oreo cookies for the fatso. Yeah, don't worry, Chris, for both of us.
He did the same thing. He also did it when he was trying to rip on Kasich for not spending enough time in his home state. He spent more time. He spent more time in New Jersey than Chris Christie. Chris Christie said it.
Oh, that's right.
Oh my God, that's right.
He goes, I'm sorry, Chris. I had to do it. I'm sorry, I had to do it. You're a bigger screw up than this guy I'm making fun of right now, but you're on our team now. That's what he was doing. Right in his face. He doesn't right in his fucking face.
But it reminds me of the mob movies.
Yes.
Right, where the mob boss gets to rib the underling, and the underling hates him, but he's got to sit there and lick his boots anyway, and kiss his ring and whatever else for it.
So what he's saying every time he does something like that, he's just like, hey, Chris, look at your shine box. That's what he's saying. Yeah. Look at your shine box.
Wonderfully demeaning of Chris Christie.
Putting in for him. I just want something to happen like that to Donald Trump now.
Now, the flip side is, by the way, you think it's an end, Donald Trump definitely has a very good chance of winning this election. Okay, if he does, Chris Christie. I mean, look, he could be vice president, which is amazing. But I think that he's really debased himself so much that even Trump probably feels sick looking at him. I don't think he wants to go around the campaign trail with him, but that's still a possibility. But most likely, he will be Attorney General. That is one of the most powerful jobs in the country. Among the four most powerful people in the country. And that could be henchmen, you know, at that point maybe he gives up all pretenses, just start wearing the sweatsuit, right? Sweatpants and stuff. I pulled up like at the baseball game and like, hey, I'm the head of the Justice Department. See, I like this boots, but I got the precinct that I run now.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, though, if he doesn't make him Attorney General or VP, he could make him the head of the Department of Shutting Down Transportation. Get a little bit of experience. Bridges. Anyway.
All right.
Okay. Why don't we take a quick break?
Okay. When we come back, a Republican makes a case that we are not jailing enough people. Okay, come right back. An article out in Politico quoting a dozen Democratic legislators who say, Bernie, yeah, come on, let's wind this thing down. And they want to tell them, shh, don't criticize Hillary. Know your role. Your job is to energize all these people and then hand them over to us so that they can vote against Donald Trump and in favor of Hillary Clinton. Politico explains, Sanders has repeatedly dismissed Clinton supporters as part of the establishment, which Democratic senators interpret as showing disrespect for them. To which I say, goddamn right it is. You are the establishment. You have been for Hillary Clinton, who is clearly an establishment candidate. A lot of you have the same problems with those issues on trade, financial regulation, foreign policy. A lot of you voted for those wars. A lot of you want to let corporations do whatever they want in TPP and override our sovereignty and get rid of our environmental laws. And then, oh, I'm sorry, do you feel disrespected? No. Here's the disrespect. The one that you show towards the voters. When you pretend to be progressive, when you need their votes, and then you get into office, you go, okay, now, corporations that donated to me, how can I help you? See, that's disrespectful. The movement exists and attaches itself to Bernie Sanders because Bernie Sanders has a record of 40 years of honesty and fighting for those same principles. We know what Hillary Clinton's positions are. We know what Bernie Sanders' positions are. We know what your positions are. That's what drives you crazy.
So right now I'm walking by Tim Robbins. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. Just going to walk by, see if he notices me, see if he recognizes me. It's cool, like Tim, he's acting like he doesn't see me, like he doesn't notice me. It's all right. It's cool. A lot of people have recognized me. It's okay if Tim Robbins plays it cool. He is playing it cool. I'm going to walk this way. See, I'll give him a chance to recognize. Let's see if he notices me. Ready?
For Bernie Sanders, for the leadership and the heart.
Maybe he didn't notice me because, my head was turned. It's probably because my head was turned. You think it was because my head was turned? I think it was because my head was turned.
Okay. I actually think Tim Robbins recognized you.
I think he did.
Okay, real quick tweets. Jimmy Brandon writes in, hey Jank, Jimmy and John, on all these last points and off the cuff discussions, they're amazing. So don't feel sorry. Thank you, Jimmy Dore posing as Jimmy Brandon. Okay, got you. All right. And here's another one. Stop censoring us. Says, I love Jimmy Dore. Even when the conversation's about sugar, he always brings it back to Bernie and the political revolution. Okay, don't encourage him. Okay.
Everything does come back to it.
Okay, and Christopher Nagy says, John Kane Crusader fighting the sweet fight. You really
Cane
are. You're
Crusader?
yeah, the Cane Crusader. Sugar.
Yeah, but I would eventually be taken down when someone like looks in my pantry and sees all the goddamn cookies. I thought you were gonna say
you said no more Oreo cookies for you, John. Okay, me too, John.
I literally
me too.
ate Oreos before the show. Because JR have you looked at his food? That's crazy. It's cinnamon bun Oreos.
I think you're going to be taken down if someone looks inside your pants. That's what I thought you were going to say.
I wouldn't mind being taken.
He said pantry. I thought,
Oh, I see. Okay.
Did I mention my T-shirt?
Yes, real quick.
Is that okay?
You go.
Don't freak out. Support independent media. Jimmy Dorso's doing an Indiegogo right now. Go to jimmydorcomedy.com, and we have all kinds of great giveaways. Don't freak out is one of them. And you can have dinner with me, too. That's another one.
Yeah.
Right, Backstage Pass. For life, people get that. Backstage for life. Someone got that. They're going to come see
For
me.
life.
For life.
Gonna come.
Wow.
It's a bit excessive, and we might have to rescind that.
After it's done.
Okay. JimmyDoreComedy.com.
Thank you.
All right. Next.
Okay. Back in 2006, Donald Trump had what appears to be, to me, a fairly controversial opinion about the possibility of a housing market crash. Listen.
There's a lot of talk, which you no doubt heard too, about the so-called real estate bubble. What's your take on that pessimism?
Well, first of all, I sort of hope that happens, because then people like me would go in and buy. If you're in a good cash position, which I'm in a good cash position today, then people like me would go in and buy like crazy. If there is a bubble burst, as they call it, you can make a lot of money.
So I'm going to actually talk about both sides of this. So as a business person, I understand what he's saying completely. Like, you want to buy low, you want to sell high. At that point in time in 2006, Trump said in that interview that he was cash heavy, meaning like at that point he did not have a lot of real estate ventures. He was more liquid. So he wouldn't get hurt in a real estate crash, and he'd have all this cash ready to buy when it goes low. So
when has he ever said he wasn't cash flooded?
Right. Well, that's true.
He
but
also, by the way, he created some corporation to do more investment in real estate the year of the crash. So let's not give him too much credit for knowing what's going to happen.
Oh, no.
It's hard to remember. I know he has such a long list of failed enterprises, but that was one.
Yeah, and let's also remember that in that interview, he said, I don't think it's going to crash. He was totally wrong.
Yeah.
He was totally wrong, okay? But remember, he actually doesn't have a lot of real estate ventures anyway, right? That's part of the reason why he wasn't in real estate, is because nobody would lend him money to go into real estate. The only thing he ever does is sell his name, and they put it on buildings, but other people build it. So that's part of why he didn't have money in there. But from a business perspective, I get why he wants to buy low. But it is, on the other hand, perfectly emblematic of how little they care about you, right?
Yeah.
Because, but dude, if you're going to buy low, that means disaster struck millions of people. But to him, who cares? They're not the Donald. Why would I care about people who are not the Donald? Like, he's so self-obsessed. But it's also not just Donald Trump. It's emblematic of a certain attitude among the powerful that, like, hey, man, I buy low, I sell high. You're the sucker who bought the stock when I was already out of it without telling you, right? I was already shorting the housing market when I found out that we were about to crash it. Yep. Like, all my thought is what was going to crash the housing market. But luckily, since I had the insider info, I already knew that, and I shorted it at your expense.
Yeah.
So, like, if you saw the big short, I don't blame the guys who shorted it who were not involved in the housing market. They were just savvy businessmen. In a lot of ways, I think that made a ton of sense, and I respect them for making the right call. And by the way, warning everybody. They weren't quiet about it. They said, this thing's going to crash. Everybody be careful. This thing's... But if you're the one who fixed the housing market to crash, and then you bet against it, that's a different ballgame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in this case, Trump didn't rig the market. He didn't even know what the hell's going on. His main thing is he's a clown. He really is grossly incompetent, has no idea what he's doing. But the fact that he doesn't give a damn at all, and if you watch The Big Short again, there was a great moment where Brad Pitt tells the two guys celebrating after they made a great deal. Mm-hmm. Guys, remember, yes, it looks like you're going to get incredibly rich, but that's going to be because a lot of people are going to be suffering, so don't celebrate, right? Trump never got that talking to. If you're suffering and he has gained because of it, he's going to celebrate. Yeah. He doesn't care about you at all.
And think about how many people who are currently supporting him lost their homes because of the housing crash, or lost their jobs because of it. Look, there's all sorts of figures that we could literally lost their lives, by the way, because people did commit suicide as a result of the financial hardship caused by the housing market crash. We could throw a lot of numbers around. We're just going to give you one to sum it up. The 2008 stock market crash destroyed $16.4 trillion of American households' net worth from 2007 through 2009. It wiped out more than $2 trillion of Americans' retirement savings. And that was something he's like, I kind of hope it happens. You know what? It'll be good for me. Doesn't matter if it ruins millions of Americans' lives, breaks up their marriages, causes their kids stress that'll last the rest of their life. If it sends a bunch of people who are already retired to the poorhouse, or they die because they can't afford the medicine they need or something like that, I might make some more money.
You know, it was certainly bad for the normal American and the retired person who lost all that money and their retirement savings and stuff. I mean, it was bad for them. But the bankers really took it on the chin too. I mean, I don't think. I mean, they had to. Remember how hard they had to complain to make sure they kept getting their bonuses after they crashed the economy? They had to complain really loudly, and they got them.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Why this power establishment just doesn't get how angry the country is.
They do not get it.
Because they think like, yeah, but those guys, they literally think this. You think like, no, they can't really think it. No, but they genuinely believe, but they had to get their bonus. What were the poor guys going to do? I'm serious. And the reason they think that is because the people they know get huge bonuses. So they view that as like, wait, I know if I don't get my huge bonus, I don't know how I would pay for my kid's private school and how I would afford the great house that I live in, right? So all those bankers, well, they got to get the bonus. That's not fair if they don't get the. But they crashed their banks.
Yeah.
They destroyed their businesses. You don't get a bonus in capitalism if you destroyed your business. That's not capitalism. So what did I just tell you earlier? Hey, if you're a smart and savvy guy and you shorted the market and you didn't have anything to do with it, I hear you, brother. Okay, that's capitalism. Crashing and destroying pulverizing your business and get a bonus for it is not capitalism. That just means you bought all the politicians and you got bailed out anyway.
Crony capitalism.
That's crony capital. So that 0.1%. They didn't get hurt by the crash. In the beginning, they panicked. They thought they were going to really get hurt, right? But then they got all their bribes into the right people, and now the bribes are legal. So then they got all the money and then some back. But you guys lost. Think about this. Okay, like the $16 trillion in your house's worth, that devastated the middle class, and it hit Black and Latino communities the worst. Okay, and we've done segments proving out the numbers behind that, and the amount of money that the average Black household lost because of the crash was heartbreaking, right? But Trump sits there in his literal tower. You know, they complain about Ivy Towers. He's got a Trump tower where he goes, I kind of hope it does crash. I hope you lose all your money because then I'll make a couple of extra bucks, right? But on top of all that, what really got to me, and I hadn't seen that number before, John, the $2 trillion in retirement savings. You had planned to retire off that. Now you got to eat cereal 2 out of 3 meals. And while that guy in his tower laughs at you, and some of you, as you're eating that mac and cheese and the cereal and the bologna sandwich for every day for the whole month, because you lost your retirement savings or you lost a big chunk of it, you can't do any of the things that you had imagined, you're going to turn around and vote for the guy who was hoping that would happen.
The attack ad writes itself.
In fact, Hillary Clinton also said she blamed the homeowners for that. She said they should have known better. They should have known that if somebody doesn't ask you to document your income, that there's something shady. So she was blaming the homeowners for the fucking bank crash. We've seen that tape.
No,
right?
but Jimmy, getting the millions upon tens of millions of dollars from the banks, that wouldn't affect what she says at all. That wouldn't affect policy, would it?
Jacob,
that didn't affect her blaming the homeowners instead of the banks, did it?
Jacob, you have proof of her fucking corruption right now. Say it or shut the fuck up.
How about
throw a chair at him?
Okay. You know, Dylan Ratigan, in my opinion, got removed from CNBC during the crash because he kept saying, well, obviously the banks did.
Yes,
but it's the most obvious thing in the world. They did it for profit, right? They did it. They took all the risks so that they could enrich themselves in the short run. Those risks didn't work out. They crashed the economy, and they got their bailouts. Well, why are we having a conversation about homeowners who lost their home, who have no money? How could the guy with no money and no power have created the crash? Of course it was the people. She finally delivers for me.
Again, keeping it real.
We gotta move on. Hey, we gotta move on.
Keeping it real. If you have evidence of her corruption. Story. He did say, to show what a great businessman he is, he did say, I'm not a believer that the real estate market is going to take a big hit.
The entire world, it even has more prisoners than China, a country that has 4 times our population.
Number one, baby.
Number one. Over 500,000 more prisoners, they have 4 times the population. Now, that seems to you as if something needs to change, if that's a problem. Well, then Republican Senator Tom Cotton wants to change your mind. He says, take a look at the facts. First, the claim that too many criminals are being jailed, that there is over-incarceration, ignores an unfortunate fact. For the vast majority of crimes, a perpetrator is never identified or arrested, let alone prosecuted, convicted, and jailed. Law enforcement is able to arrest or identify a likely perpetrator for only 19% of property crimes and 47% of violent crimes. If anything, we have an under-incarceration problem.
Okay. So, a couple of things here. Now, first on the substance of these statements. Yeah, but Tom, what crime are we talking about? So, if you're talking about murder and you say, hey, somebody was murdered in Arkansas and, obviously devastated the family, etc., we didn't catch the guy. So, in that particular case, we have under-incarceration. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. We all agree to that, right? And by the way, you can't, I hope we get to a point where we can solve all the crimes in the world, because I don't want anybody getting killed, assaulted, raped, robbed, etc., and somebody gets away with it. You know what we hate on this show? Injustice. And that's an injustice. Yes. Okay? So, but that has existed, unfortunately, for time immemorial. Nobody has 100% arrest record, 100% conviction. No country's been able to do that. If you want to go in that direction, great. But that's not what we're talking about, Tom. We're talking about arresting people for things like smoking pot, which we've filled our jails with millions of people for doing that. That's like saying during Prohibition, yes, we've arrested all these people for the high crime of having a beer, but we have an under-incarceration problem because we didn't catch the people doing the murders. By the way, a lot of the people doing the murders were doing because you created a prohibition which leads to gangs, and here we are again. We have a prohibition which leads to gangs. In this case, drug gangs, which leads to more crime, which then you ironically turn around and say, under-incarceration.
Well, I can just imagine, the detective comes back, there weren't enough clues, he can't catch the murderer. So I guess we'll round up 4 pot smokers to even things out. But nobody actually thinks that. But Tom Cotton is, look, we've covered him many times, he's one of the biggest liars in the Senate, potentially. He's a hawk, he's a terrible person, and he is perfectly fine with arresting and detaining for years and years.
Up is down with this guy, right? And gullible isn't in the dictionary, right? That's what's happening with Tom Cotton, right? Yeah. This is unbelievable. So what he doesn't, he wants us to incarcerate more people and prosecute more crime, but just some crime. He doesn't want us to investigate all crimes. I'm sure he's not upset that the people on Wall Street aren't in jail. He's not upset about that. He's not upset that the people ordered and carried out torture aren't in jail. He's not upset about that. He doesn't want to put those people in jail. Who does he want to put in jail? He wants to put in poor people. He wants to put poor people in jail who don't have good legal representation. That's what he wants to put in jail.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Tom, is there an under-incarceration problem on Wall Street? Okay. And tax fraud. All the guys who are... Look, some legally move their money to the Cayman Islands. That shouldn't be legal. That's a loophole. You should get busy fixing that so they actually pay their taxes as patriotic Americans, which you're never going to do because you actually work for them. But then some actually commit tax fraud. Oh, but you cut the budget for the IRS so they couldn't investigate that tax fraud, didn't you, Tom Cotton? So it turns out you like under-incarceration when it comes to the rich that are committing white-collar crimes and hiding their money and cheating on their taxes and doing all those things. You love that part of it. You just don't like it if the poor or the middle class is getting away with it. We should incarcerate them more. So who is Tom Cotton? And you will hear me now, quote me later. Tom Cotton will be the darling of the Republican establishment. That's what he's trying to do, and it will work. Tom Cotton is the guy who raised his hand in Republican caucus saying, donors, what do you need from me? I'll do it. You want me to work with the mullahs and the ayatollahs in Iran, the right-wing radicals in Iran, to kill the peace deal that our moderates and their moderates are working on? I'm your guy. Defense contractors, you need that killed? I'm your guy, right? Hey, Wall Street, you want me to protect you? The rich that are evading your taxes, you want me to protect you? I'm your guy. I'm Tom Cotton, right? And you want me to crush the poor so the prison industrial complex will make more money and all the other things that are, related to that. You all want to make more money? I'm your guy. I'm your guy. So it's not that Tom Cotton is particularly bright. It's not that he accomplished more than other people. We have a country of 300 million people, and the donors are looking for the guy with no shame, who will do everything that they are told to do. So that is what makes them stars. You know who the last star was? Marco Rubio. Yeah. And the donors had selected him because, hey, look at that. He looks pleasant, and he's from an important state like Florida, and he's Latino. Perfect. And he's the guy in class who was sitting in the front of the class with the Republican donors. Yes, I'll do it. Yes, what do you need? I'll do it. I'll do it.
He was thirsty for it.
He was definitely thirsty for it, right? So now that Rubio's gone, the new Rubio is Tom Cotton. Now, you probably haven't heard a lot about Tom Cotton yet. You will. And soon you'll start to see press like Rubio got. In Time magazine, they said the Republicans saved him, right? Because the corporate media just coincidentally happens to agree with all the Republican donors, right? It'll just magically happen that way. As always, I'm telling you ahead of time, okay? You will start to see great press for Tom Cotton because he has been chosen. Because he raised his hand and said, I have no shame. I'll do anything you want me to do. Keep you out of jail even though you're stealing billions of dollars? No problem. Put more poor people in jail so you can make a couple extra dollars? No problem. I'm Tom Cotton, and I'm here to serve you. That's what this guy is saying.
Yeah. So it's amazing that, I can't get over the story a little bit. I'll just say real quickly, because he's saying the opposite. He's saying that police aren't the culprits. He's talking about, he said in nearly every case the blood is on the hands of the gang members or the drug dealers or no, it's like everything
what he said about the disenfranchising felons.
Is there that many Honey Boo Boo viewers that are voting in Arkansas? Because who the fuck else would vote for this guy?
No, you know
how could they elect Bill Clinton?
It's not even for them, really.
They elect Bill Clinton and they elect this guy.
Some people will like the rhetoric, we're going to be tough on crime again, because they believe false things about crime. They think lots of cops are dying when in fact they just did a final judgment today. It was 20% lower than it was the year before. The last 3 years have all been below the average for the past 3 decades. They think that there's more property crime, more violent crime than there actually is. We're living in incredibly peaceful times, but they believe false things, and so they want a hard pro-law and order candidate.
Okay, and Jimmy, it's super easy to buy a Senate seat in Arkansas. There's no free media. When in the presidential run, everybody's on TV nonstop. It's hard to buy that election. In Arkansas, nobody gives a shit who's running for Senate. The guy with more money gets to buy all the advertisements. He gets to buy it on TV, he gets to buy it on digital, radio, etc. The other guy doesn't have a mic to speak into. Nobody can hear him. Nobody can hear him screaming that Tom Cotton's actually working for the Republican donors. Yeah. So if nobody hears that, and all they hear is what a wonderful patriot Tom Cotton is and how he served in the military bravely and he'd like to send your kid to die in a war. And then, they left that part out of the ad, right? They're not going to hear that. So it's like people always blaming the American people, but they never got the message. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, we should reach out to the Dem that's running against it next time.
Yeah. Okay, I know we're way over time, but I actually really want to do the fast food workers because I thought that was just a brilliant job that Jordan did on the road. So real quick, let's do it as quickly as we can.
Okay. Fast food workers in Burgerville have joined the fight for 15, an effort to get a $15 minimum wage, what they consider to be a living wage in an area that is becoming increasingly difficult to live in. The cost of rent is going up, the cost of living is going up. So our political reporter, Jordan Sheraton, spoke with some of the young activists about what this fight means to them.
We can't survive on minimum wage. I'm struggling every month. I'm going into debt every month just having that job, just trying to support myself. Burgerville talks a lot about how they support the environment and they support sustainability, and they care about where their beef comes from. And what we're saying is if you care about your beef, you got to care about your workers.
They're making a lot of money, and I'm not making a lot of money, and my work is what's making them a lot of money. Sometimes I just don't buy groceries every month, and I live eating a meal a day. where I have to choose like having a house or having an apartment with 2 different roommates and paying my rent over just like buying groceries for myself. It's a struggle to pay my rent every month. It's hard to buy food.
It's not just Burgerville, right? We know this is like Burgerville is part of a larger system where paying workers minimum wage is the norm. We're doing this for ourselves because we need it. We're doing it with our coworkers because so many of us need it, but we're also doing it because there's a whole low wage economy, and so many people are facing what we're facing, and we see what we're doing as part of a larger vision for a world that focuses on human need instead of the accumulation of profit. And it's about the people at the bottom making that change, because I think that's where change comes from.
A hopeful moment. What would you like to be doing in life? A passion of yours, if money were no object?
Money, I don't know. Money has always been an object.
Right now it's not. Right now it's not. Dream job.
Dream job. Guess I would just like the opportunity to explore that question.
Yeah, I think working in something you're passionate about is a luxury.
That was such a powerful video. Watch the whole thing at youtube.com/TYT politics. So first off, I don't live in the area where there are Burgervilles, so different parts of the country have different chains. Burgerville sounds like something out of a movie where it's like a dystopia, and everybody's working at Burgerville. So, but I say that kiddingly, and I mainly mean because I want to say this isn't about Burgerville. If that happens to be one particular chain that they happen to be, organizing to make sure that there's a union on, but it's about the whole country, right? To me, the powerful points there were, and in the larger video, some of this you didn't see. He said, "Are you thinking about going to school?" Jordan asked him, right? And he said, "No," and I'll tell you why. It's not like I don't want to go to school. And my friends who went to school now have a ton of debt, but they're working at the same fast food place I am because there aren't jobs. So at least I don't have the debt that they have. We're both stuck at the same job. So, if I went to school, if I thought I was going to get a better job out of it, of course I'd do it. I mean, he's so despondent. I think that's the guy that was 25 years old, if I'm not mistaken. He's so despondent that he hasn't bothered to think of what his dream job would be. And she said it perfectly there at the end. That's a luxury we can't afford. And so this is the America that the David Brooks of the world never see. David Brooks is the New York Times columnist that recently admitted, oops, it turns out I don't talk to any regular Americans. Everybody I know is really rich and comfortable. And so I've been talking to them for the last 20 years, and so I lost track with what was going on. It turns out the country's really angry, and that's why they're going for Trump or Bernie Sanders. Maybe I should talk to real Americans. Well, we've been doing that. Jordan's on the road doing that, right? And so you talk to real Americans, and you realize they're getting crushed out there. And so, of course they're angry. It's amazing that the establishment has never seen these guys. And do they really want to fix that? Are they sitting around huddled in a caucus somewhere going, guys, how do we help those three? How do we help them, right? And when I say this, the Chris Matthews of the world get really upset, like, how dare you? Those are honorable gentlemen, right? And they got into politics because they care. And no, there used to be a time where some people got into politics because they care, right? But now everybody who got into politics,
even then they were rich.
No, I understand that, right? And there were at least some honest people, Paul Wellstone, and then you go back actually in the 1960s, there were a lot of honest politicians, some corrupt ones throughout time, of course, right? But back then it was hard to be corrupt. You had to do things illegally. Now we legalize the corruption, so when the honest people get into politics, they lose. Because the guy with more money wins 95% of the time. So the system self-selects those who care about the donors and don't give a damn about the three people you just saw. And the millions, hundreds of millions of people they represent throughout the country.
But you have to imagine that Hillary Clinton is going to be all over that, because they're talking about theoretically going to school, theoretically having a better job, but there are so many barriers between them and that job. She just wants to break down those barriers, so I'm sure that she's going to campaign for them and go for $12, which is not enough.
Hey, Alan Simpson of all people, I recorded on my show. He was talking and he said, if you keep telling these people on minimum wage that you can't afford to give them a raise, stop publishing your quarterly profits because they can see them.
Yeah.
So the people who are generating millions and millions of dollars of profit every quarter for their fast food company, they maybe should share in some of those profits. That's Alan Simpson saying that.
Yeah, and so don't get us wrong. We're not against profits, okay? We understand how the system works, and we know that you want to motivate people to create the best restaurant they can. But don't pretend you can't pay them more. You can. You're just choosing not to pay them more. And one of the ways that you enforce that choice on everyone else is you legally bribe politicians in the form of campaign donations, and you say, don't you, under any circumstance, raise the minimum wage. So that's why the national minimum wage right now is $7.25. We're having theoretical conversations about $15, and some progressive cities have passed that. Yeah. But nationally, it's $7.25. How in the world can you live on that? And the reality is that you can't. But there was a great clip from a Republican congressman. They were asked, hey, can't you raise the minimum wage? Like, isn't that something you should do to look out for your own constituents? You're supposed to be their representative. You're supposed to represent them. And he said, oh, well, then they should. Why don't they go get a job? But they do have a job. They are working hard. But in the minds of the powerful, you're all bums. Doesn't matter if you're working hard. Doesn't matter if you have 2 jobs. You didn't give me a donation. I'm not giving you a donation. Sorry. I'm not going to do anything for you because the guys with all those record-breaking profits are the ones that sign my paychecks. Yeah. So, look, I'm going to mention Wolfpack here because that's how you get the money out, right? Wolf-pack.com. Join, fight, be with us, etc. But this is, but I don't want you to get the wrong idea. You fight in any way you like, okay? And here, those young people out there are like, look, we're going to unionize because then at least together we're stronger, and then we'll have some leverage. So they can't push one of us around. They can't fire one of us, right? Yeah. If we're all together, then at least we'd have leverage to get a little bit better wages. They can clearly afford it. The reason they're not doing this is because we're not forcing them to do it. So fight any way that you want. One way to do it is get the goddamn money out of politics so they go back to representing us. And yes, that time did exist in America. Wolf-pack.com. Do whatever you want. You want to give, donations so that we can hire more people, which we desperately need to hire more people to have this fight. You want to volunteer? Bless your heart. Let's do it. Because we all got to do it together. All right. And check out more of this reporting, including more of that video at youtube.com/TYT Politics. All right. Thank you, John. Brett's going to come back. We have some amazing stories for you guys when we return. And let me give you just a note on one of them. There's one on Uber knowing too much information about you. And you know me, I've said it 1,000 times. I just said it in that story even as I look out for those. I'm a capitalist, right? I'm like, yeah, Uber knows information and they know when to hike up your prices. Except they apparently know something they shouldn't know. We'll tell you about that when we come back.
We talk about TYT Army being so strong. Usually they help us run our show. Now they're going to help us run the country.
Oh, like this.
It's time that we reclaim democracy for the people.
We had a huge victory for Wolfpack.
When Lincoln said this was a country by, of, and for, he said of the people, not of corporations.
Our representatives don't represent us. Whoa! Democracy!
United! We are!
We are!
Too strong!
There's thousands of volunteers, and you can be among them.
With Wolfpack, the mission is so clear.
Money is killing our democracy. 96% of Americans want it. When you get the power back, oh, that feels good. This is just the beginning. Let's go get them, man. Up and at them. Knock, knock. We're coming for them! Wolf-pack.com.
Damn it, they failed us. And if you're not angry about that, Michael, and any of you out there, then you're damn wrong. Because you should be angry. Young Turks.
It was genuine. He was bad.
Jake Uger, known online as one of the Young Turks, isn't afraid to throw some punches.
3, 2, 1, hit up. I just remember thinking, what is this guy's name?
Jake the Turk Uger.
I think a TV station is this. The whole point is for me to yell and scream and tell you what I think.
It's right out of like Wayne's World. This guy on this little rinky-dink website is speaking truth to power. We've been averaging 600,000 views a day, beating most of the cable shows in America.
We're the largest online news show in the world.
We're celebrating our 1 billionth view.
We're coming.
More politics ahead with Cenk Uygur.
He knew that the MSNBC opportunity was an experiment.
And Phil and host beat CNN headline news combined. At some point, they want to give me a show.
Every single year, that comes out of our paycheck. We put it in, and you're saying we were suckers.
When you, as a host, tells someone you're interviewing to shut up, that's going to raise a red flag.
That guy needed a long glass of shut up.
If President Obama's doing the wrong thing, I'm not going to tell you that he's doing the right thing so I can, quote, support him. He says to me, "You won't believe the meeting that I just had."
The head of MSNBC talked to me.
They want him off the air. Cenk took an incredible risk. And we're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media. The Democrats and the Republicans are here to screw you. And who on the air is saying it? I wouldn't have done what he did. That if I'm going to be a talk show host, I'm going to be the biggest talk show host in the country. I don't think anyone else does it better. I don't think anyone's even close. Before you know it, I'll be back on your TV doing an actual show. I guarantee it.
I'm just doing what's right.
Yes, go back to that.
Mexico's going to pay for the wall.
So good.
Very, very big price.
I can't finish it because it's so good.
Borrowed money from the Chinese and they give it to us because they're nice people. We're a bunch of capitalists borrowing money from a bunch of communists so we can bring democracy to a bunch of Muslims who don't even fucking want it. I saw a comedian on the TV, he said, if you're 30, 35, 40 and you still work at a fast food restaurant, you're a loser. I was like, oh, thank God. Somebody finally stood up to the minimum wage worker and took them down a few pegs. That's the beauty of Facebook. Right, you find out that you really don't like your friends. Because I think a lot of the gay guys themselves voted against gay marriage. I'd love to marry you, I can't wait. Let me go vote. No. And then afterwards you act upset about it. Oh, I wanted to marry you, but they made it illegal.
Back on the Church Spreader, what joins us from Pop Trigger? Hey, what's up? Okay, I feel like I have to yell at the top of each hour. Okay, I'm going to read you a couple tweets for you guys. Joe Oliver says, Boomers and Generation Xers fucked up the economy in '08, but millennials are lazy and don't know how to climb the corporate ladder. Right.
Both of us. Both are true.
Yeah, certainly in some cases. And Mugatu says, most viral part of Jordan Chariton's clip was the guy couldn't even pretend living with enough money to do what he wanted. Like, he never even thought about that. Like, he didn't even dare to dream. He couldn't even whisper of a dream about, like, Jesus, what if I had a really good job, right? That's so sad, man. And, like, you look at those guys. Did any of them look like bums? They all look like they worked really hard, and they're just trying to get along. Okay. Get by, I should say. All right, finally, Amanda for Congress writes in, Trump will almost certainly crash our economy if given the chance. It's a great business opportunity for him.
We call it writing down America.
Yeah,
write it down.
So I take advantage of the laws. I take advantage of many, many laws. That's what I do. That's what I do. That's why I'm a good businessman. I took advantage of you, became president, crashed the economy, made more money. That's what he's going to do. Like all these guys, you think, oh, he's going to look out for us. No, he's going to look out for himself. I told this story before. I'm going to needlessly tell it now when we have no time whatsoever to tell this story.
That's okay.
Okay. I know a lawyer. No, I knew somebody else actually. And Trump had made this deal to go speak in one of the Gulf states, right? And I believe these were the numbers. Don't quote me on the numbers, but $250,000 to go give a speech, right? And they were going to do a big thing around it. They said, oh, great, he agreed. So they went through tremendous cost to market it, set it up, do all the infrastructure, hired a whole bunch of other speakers around him, around the event. And 2 days before the event, and again, don't quote me on the number of days, but get a sense of it, he's like, okay, I'm not coming. I'm like, what? We arranged this whole thing. He's like, I know. Now you're screwed. Now I'm going to charge you $1 million. Okay? What are you going to do about it? Okay. Right. So now, if you're a business person and all you care about is money, that's the only thing you care about, I guess congratulations, you renegotiate. They did. They paid him $1 million. They didn't have a choice. Otherwise, all the other millions of dollars have gone to waste, right? So, but if you're a person who has like 1% shame, you go, oh, no, you can't do that. I mean, your word is a thing. His business model is being untrustworthy. That's his business model. Hillary Clinton in the latest poll is 5 points less trustworthy than him, according to the American people. One, you fundamentally misunderstand Donald Trump. He's playing you for that next fool. In that story, you're not Donald Trump's buddy. You're the Gulf state who got taken for a ride, okay? And then for the Democratic Party, you have somebody losing to that guy in trustworthiness. Okay, but we're the bad guys for pointing it out. And if Hillary Clinton loses, they will definitely blame us. They'll say, oh, if you guys had gotten in, if you had gotten in line and you'd done what you were supposed to do, Jimmy,
yes,
she would have won, but you cost us the election.
It's everybody's fault except hers for being the most hated politician in America and for the Democratic organization for jamming her down our throats. It's not. You couldn't pick someone who people didn't feel repulsed by. They could have. They didn't. They're jamming the most hated politician down our throat. We're supposed to take it like it's our fault. No, it's your fault. If you lose, whose fault is that? It's your fault for fucking losing. It's nobody else's fault. You couldn't inspire people to vote for you. That's called a bad politician. And what's happening right now with Debbie Wasserman Schultz is she's also proving what a horrible politician she's doing. Instead of trying to bring people together so we do support Hillary Clinton if she's the nominee, she's doing the exact opposite. She's almost guaranteeing that the Bernie Sanders supporters will have no part in this Democratic organization because that's how I feel.
Well, as the mouthpiece of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, I'd like to say, no. I think if Hillary loses, then it will be seen widely as Hillary's fault.
I hope so.
I think that's what's going to happen. I just don't think that the institutional memory of a lot of people is long enough to think of anything other than what happened to Al Gore losing that election.
But to this day, they
still blame Nader. There's still articles.
Well, and then what's weird is like kind of the reason that Hillary Clinton is in our vocabulary whatsoever is Ross Perot, because there was a third-party candidate running against Bush.
That's a great point. No one has even said that. Out of the mouth of babes.
Right. I never realized the irony of saying you can't have a third-party candidate under any circumstance. If it wasn't for a third-party candidate, we might not have had the Clintons under any circumstance.
20% or something, like an insanely more than Nader ever got.
But he never won the presidency with the majority of the votes. I don't think
Is that what it was?
Correct, right?
But I know that was like the biggest take since the Bull Moose Party of a third-party candidate.
Yeah. Okay, John. All right. I want to give credit to some folks here. You know, normally I do member shout-outs, but we'll do this and then we'll get on with the Uber news and all the others. So the Indiegogo guys who set up the studio, we do mention that from time to time, but I want to give them a little bit more credit here today. So the guy who sponsored this chair is Nick Weil. Nick, Wise Investment, every guest, every host that ever comes in sees your name. Because it's on the chair, and when we come in, everybody sees Nick Weil. Okay. The cameras were given by the 241 crew, and that's a pizza shop up in Canada. Okay, and it's not the pizza shop. It was the guys working at the pizza shop. And so, there's the Nick Weil chair.
There you go.
And
everybody asks about that, even when it's over there when we shoot Pop Trigger.
Yeah, that's right. And those guys are, in a lot of ways, like the Burgerville guys we saw, but they just believed in this show, and we love them for it. Diana Francisco is one of the cameras, and Brian Weissman. Brian was the first one to give for any of the cameras, so for months we kept talking about the Weissman camera. So just wanted to bring it back a little bit. And then our conference room upstairs is Stephen Perlow conference room. So there it is. Stephen, sorry, Steve. We actually made that room a little smaller, so I feel like we should have given you more bang for your buck by making it larger. But anyway, thank you, though. We appreciate it. Anytime that you guys look out for us, we appreciate it. And if you want, JimmyDoreComedy.com. He's in Indiegogo right now, okay, to build his studio.
Thank you, Jake. That's very nice of you to do that.
Okay, God bless. Well, it's nice of them to do all that. All right, what do you got?
I don't need anything.
Okay,
I'm good. I don't need anything. I don't need any money. But the iguana, that happened. The beautiful voice. Anyhow.
All right, how much does Sam love iguana getting a bigger cage?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As she fights for the rights of animals everywhere, she's very happy about the bigger cage. Okay, so Uber. We use it, we love it, or we hate it. There is a thing called surge pricing. And according to a recent statement, Uber knows when you're willing to pay the most for your ride, but they promise not to gouge you for that circumstance. Here is a quote from Keith Chen, Uber's head of economic research. Keith Chen recently told NPR that people are willing to accept up to 9.9 times surge pricing if their phones are about to go dead.
What?
That's what he noticed. 9.9. So basic, it would be 10, except there's only 2 spots for you to type in to say that you do accept the 9.9 time surge. Chen then called it, according to this quote, an interesting kind of psychological fact of human behavior, and promised that the company is not using the data to gouge riders.
No.
He then went like this. Because that's the central premise of Uber, is that when they do the surge pricing, for those of you who are not familiar, surge pricing is when there is too much demand for drivers and not enough supply of drivers. According to Uber's justification, they raise the price to inspire more supply. So, in theory, to tell their drivers that they're going to make more money per mile, so then they will sign into the Uber app and start driving. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah. So I thought for sure when I first saw the headline that I was going to defend it. They know when the traffic is surging and demand is surging, and yes, it theoretically even helps the situation because then more of their drivers will come in, just like you said.
Straight up economics, they say.
Right. But not only that, they make more money. Right? And I got it. If you don't like it, take a cab. Right? So what was annoying about the cabs, especially in a city like LA, is they had really no real competition. So half the time they wouldn't even show up.
Yes.
You'd have to get to the airport and they wouldn't show up.
Yep.
So Now, every city's different. And in New York, I mean, you want to try to catch a cab in New York? Good luck to you, brother, right? And I've been out in the freezing cold for half an hour trying to find a cab, in different situations, right? So I think I'm a fan of Uber. I use it. A lot of people, I don't know, there's liberals who are against this, different people who are against it. I'm not in that camp, but I hear you, brother, and they should do better for the workers, yada, yada, right? So I was, okay, God bless, okay? But, so I was all set to defend them, right? But no. You're allowed to use public information about traffic and this and that. You can't get into my phone and figure out what kind of battery life I have left. That's gouging. Yeah, that's gouging, right? And that's way too intrusive. That's like after a hurricane when the water companies come in and go, well, you used to pay $1 for that bottle of water, now it's $10.
And that's illegal.
That, by the way, that's illegal, right?
Yeah.
So this should be illegal too.
So there are a lot of things in court that have been in court that have come through. Uber's been in the news. In April, there was a $10 million ruling. We have a graphic for this. And another one in February for a $28.5 million ruling against Uber, saying that they mischaracterized and misled people with how they said their background checks were industry leading when they didn't even do fingerprints. And so they're no longer allowed to say that. There was another, and that led to things like Jason Dalton, who in Michigan, I think, he went on a rampage. He's an Uber driver who killed 6 people, injured 2 more, but he had a 4.73 star rating. And the last bit is something that's going on right now. In April, a judge refused to throw out a class action lawsuit that gets kind of to the heart of what Uber is doing now, that they did something that seemed to be in our interest with kind of calling the cabs for not being, responsible to what the users needed. And so there is a lawsuit right now against the CEO and Uber for saying that they conspired with drivers to use an algorithm to kind of drive surge pricing in a way that eliminated the new competition, the rideshare app competition. A couple companies folded as a result of this. Lyft is still around, but there were some other rideshare apps that folded because, according to the lawsuit, the CEO was basically telling the drivers in a way that was inappropriate how and when to start logging in to drive surge prices up, but down at a point where they were being outmaneuvered by other companies.
I'd have to see the details of that, and to see if that's inappropriate or savvy, right? And there's often a line there, right? And look, they're not our sponsor, they're not my uncle, but I would defend them on a lot of those cases. And so, for example, on the ones that they costed someone who is their passenger, yeah, sometimes taxi drivers do. Like there's no fail safe. There's no it's like reminds me of the Craigslist killer, right? Yeah, before it used to be the phone page killer. Right now it's the Craigslist. He happened to use Craigslist, and these guys happen to be Uber drivers, but they could have been cab drivers. Now, if you say they should take more precautions and then they have to pay because they pretended to take those precautions and didn't, okay, good. Then you've got a good case, and that's why you won. So I hear you on all that. But this, to me, is fundamentally different. No, don't figure out when I'm in bad shape and then use it against me. And in this case, you're invading my phone. I'm giving you that access for a specific purpose. I'm not giving you that access so you can look at my kids' pictures on my phone or find out if my battery's dying or not, and then use that information against me, right?
Yeah, and this really gets to that point, how we feel about the app, because they are using that data that's available to them to charge us as much as they can before we say no, which is at heart just like straight up economics. But they say that they know how much battery you have so that they can lock it into low power mode when you're running out. Yeah, but they're going to do you a favor. It's like, trust us, we're Uber. We are systematically eliminating competition, and I don't know. We'll see.
Here's why, by the way, you shouldn't trust them, and having nothing to do with Uber, but having to do with how business works. So he says, no, don't worry, guys, we won't use that, okay? Until the next board meeting where they go, wait a minute, here's how much more money we can make if you use that. So why are you giving up? Let's make up a number here: $12.5 million, and that'd probably be a low estimate. Why are you giving up an extra $37.5 million in profit? Should we fire you as a CEO?
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm a shareholder in this company. I want that extra money, right? So trust us doesn't really get the job done, right? You got to earn that trust. Now, there's a good reason not to do it, because then even a guy like me who likes Uber will then criticize you, right? And then you'll lose the trust of your users, and that'll hurt your business. So that's a calculation you got to make, but that's what I mean. No, we don't just trust any quote unquote business. You got to earn that trust. We got to make sure that you're not using it, so that we continue to use your service.
So I got to make sure, because I took an Uber here today, and I paid 1.5 so I didn't pay the rent. And I wonder if my battery was low. I don't know if it was or not. And I'm like, I'm going to go back and check. Isn't that wild?
Now it's in our heads.
Yeah.
And all of this comes down to one of the elements of that last case that we mentioned was that in your user agreement, you promise, when you say, okay, you promise to take it to arbitration if you have a suit against them. But, I don't read that whole thing.
No,
It's crazy. And then part of the misrepresentation of the safety features in their vetting process, like the actual solution is just to say, is not to change their vetting process. It's to say, oh, it actually is an industry law. And it isn't to do anything. And you used to agree in the breakdown to a safety fee. Now it's just a booking fee. They didn't make it safer. They labeled it less safe.
They just changed the label.
Yeah. Bad. I have a friend who got back at Uber. You can kind of share your promo code, and then you get 10% off for every person who signs up using it. And he bought Google AdWords against it. And so he had like $10,000 because people were like, Google promo code for Uber. They used his because it was the first response. And he got like $10,000. Now they cap it.
Oh, really?
He got it.
Wow.
That means worth $50 billion, by the way.
He Uber stuck it to him.
Okay. See, even your friend is an Uber capitalist and decided to make every dollar he could, right?
So good.
So that's why you don't just take their word on it. Like, oh, don't worry, we probably won't use that information.
Yeah. Let's move on to Oklahoma. Or like, no, Oklahoma. There's a reference to a musical. All right, so this is a story about something that happened back in 2015. There was an execution of a prisoner on death row, and they went to use the third in the 3-drug combo that actually carries out the death of the inmate. And they checked on the vial for that last one and found that it was the wrong vial. And according to raw story here, and the grand jury report that just came out, here's what a lawyer in the governor's office did. Governor Mary Fallon's general counsel, Steve Mullins, issued instructions stating that potassium chloride, which is the right drug, and potassium acetate, which was the drug that they had, were basically one and the same drug, before advising the Deputy Attorney General to Google it. He said then to go forth with the execution, not because they were, according to his cursory Google search, the right drug, but because he said, quote, it would look bad for the state of Oklahoma because potassium acetate had already been used in Charles Warner's execution from before. So don't go through with it because it's the same drug, even though I am not remotely qualified as a lawyer to make that call, but because we already made that mistake, so let's cover it up by going through. Since then, 3 resignations have taken place. Steve Mullins, who's the person that we mentioned, the counsel for the governor's office, as well as Anita Trammell, the warden, and Robert Patton, the head of the Department of Corrections, for failure to report. Luckily, before that execution of Richard Glossop was carried out, it was found out that this was in fact the wrong drug, so the second execution did not go through, and they did issue a stay, but it took this long to find out what exactly happened, and this is it.
Yeah, never underestimate anybody's self-interest, right? Yeah, it's my career. I don't want to impede my career even a little bit, even though this is about executing a human being. So now he said, basically one and the same drug. Like, if you're saying, hey, difference between Taco Bell and Del Taco is basically the same taco, okay, that's fair. I might not agree, but I get it, right? When you're about to execute someone, and you're not sure that you've got the right drug, and if you don't have the right drug, they might be in tremendous pain and it might not work, you don't go, that's basically the same drug. But by the way, I'm not sure, so Google it. If you have to Google something to make sure that you're doing something right medically and you're not a doctor, okay, and what you're Googling about is killing somebody, right? Because that's what we're doing here. That's what an execution is. Probably not the right way to go. Probably consult with someone who's actually a doctor, knows these drugs, or a scientist, etc., and a lawyer who could make this decision and do it in the right process instead of going, oh, we're about to execute that guy, you're about to kill him? Like, just Google it. It's basically the same thing, probably.
Yeah, I can Google a lot of things that can kill someone. You know?
Now, why don't we chop their heads off? Because that's pretty. I mean, that works, right? Why don't we chop their heads off? And why do we administer these drugs behind curtains and where no one can see? So why do we do those two things? To shade ourselves from our own ugliness, right? Because we don't want to see what we're really doing. We want to pretend like this is some kind of a medical procedure, which it isn't. It's brutal, it's gross, it's barbaric, it's killing an unarmed human being for vengeance, right? Because we know that the death penalty doesn't deter crime. It doesn't do anything except provide vengeance that we're killing someone, right? So why don't we cut their heads off like ISIS does? Well, because we're better, right? What we do is we put it behind curtains and then we inject drugs that, I don't know, may kill them, may not, may just mess them up really bad, may cause a lot of pain, make them maybe go unconscious for 30 minutes and not be able to breathe right. Because we're barbarians. That's what this is. This is killing people. And no, by the way, it's poor people. We're killing poor people with bad legal representation. And Barry Scheck, if he's proved anything since the Simpson trial, it's that we like to kill a lot of really poor people on shitty evidence.
The people who were on death row, we said, oops, we don't like to do that. The government does not like to admit it made a mistake. Like, look at this. They don't even want to admit that, oh yeah, we used the wrong chemical to kill that last guy. He's already dead. But that would hurt my career a little bit. Nonetheless, the governments of many different states and the federal government have said, yeah, we're about to execute the wrong guy. Oops. Yeah, you're using the right drug, the wrong drug, it's going to cause more.
Here's the thing, though. At least what you said was perfect. Is like, you can't have that discussion chopping someone's heads off.
That's what it is.
Like, I very much agree with that. But for me, I'm a very vengeful person. And I would say, yeah, kill them. If they did it, kill them. And I know it's just trying to make me feel better. And I for the same reason of, like, I don't want to kill the wrong person, so that would drive my decision more. But, like, I would be lying to myself if I didn't say, like, that person who killed that person in this way, we should kill them in the exact same way. And I don't care about being thought of as, like, the better person in this situation by rising above it.
The problem is Jimmy's made a little bit of a devastating point, right? So, I'm
damn it, Jimmy.
Right. No. So I'm definitely a little vengeful, and so I care a lot about justice in this day and age. That means that you're more likely to be liberal and or progressive, and because there's so much injustice against the middle class, the poor, etc. Right? The system's rigged. But I also don't like injustice, and that's why I briefly worked in two prosecutors' office on the personal level. Like, this guy killed that woman. That's horrible, right? And I feel like I empathize with that as if it's my family member that was killed, right? And I want to get justice for those people, right? So that's my old root of, like, no, yeah, I'm for the death penalty. Yeah, you killed her, and are you telling me 100%? Okay, then off you go. And I'll go as far as saying I think that if we did it enough, there definitely would be deterrence. And you're going to say, well, then you got to kill more people. Well, if you're telling me I'm 100% certain that they're the right guys, I would say yes. But the devastating point you made is it definitely makes me uncomfortable if we're chopping our heads off. But the reality is there is no difference, right?
There's no difference.
When ISIS says, all right, should we use a saw or should we use a machete? It's basically the same thing, right? And we go, should we use potassium chloride or potassium acetate? It's basically the same difference,
and
right?
the guy who they used the wrong drug on at first said out loud as he was dying, "My body's on fire."
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Jesus Christ,
you know, like,
man.
who knows? And the thing is, like, the conclusion in the things I read are like, we don't really know if he, like, felt that and said it, or if he knew what he was saying. I think our instinct is to be like, all right, go to sleep, and while you're sleeping, we'll kill you. So that you don't watch this thing falling on your head. You don't have, like, nerve endings firing in your severed, cranium.
So here is one more point that I would like to make when we talk about this, is that if we're going to murder murderers, why don't we rape rapists?
You know? Jesus Christ.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I have an instinct, and I'd be lying if I denied it, to be like, do right back to those jerks what they did. So, but the other reasons that you listed are the ones where it's like, there's no world in which I am 100% certain that everyone killed on death row did it. So I can't give myself the satisfaction.
So look, here's the thing, right? So if someone raped someone I love,
would you rape them?
No, hold on. I'd be so angry. I'd be so unbelievably furious. Like, I can almost see, in a lawless situation, I'd do anything to them. I might kill them, etc. But I wouldn't rape them, right?
Because you're not a rapist.
Yeah.
Right? You're not a rapist. Because that's sick. You have to be sick to rape someone. But murdering someone, which everyone thinks is worse than rape, somehow we're all willing to do that. Because somehow that's glorified. That's okay. So there's a certain kind of inhumanity that we're okay with, but there's another certain kind of, and there's another reason why too, because who's going to do, if the judge goes guilty, rape them, that'd be the shortest line in the world for that job. But there is a line for murdering people in jail, right? That's weird.
Right. And I think that,
and it's all about, it's the same thing, let me just interrupt you for a second, Brett, you're doing a great job, but it's the same reason why we don't torture people. Not because maybe it would work and it wouldn't, it's because of what it does to us. It's because when you look into the abyss looks back into you. And it's not about what we can do in dark places where there's no one looking. That's not, we don't torture not because of ISIS, but in spite of them, but because of them. It's because of who we are. And that's what we have to show. We have to either value life or we don't value life. Either we think violence is a way to solve our problems or we don't. When the Oklahoma City bombing happened, Bill Clinton gave a speech and he said, we are going to seek the death penalty. And he didn't even realize the irony. He said, we have to seek the death penalty in this case because we have to send the message that violence is not a way to solve problems. So, except it is.
Yeah.
So we're giving this schizophrenic message to our culture. And so now we're embracing violence as an answer to our problems. And you see how violent our culture is now. Now we've given impunity to police, and now we've militarized our country. Whatever we do to people overseas, we're going to do it to ourselves, and we're doing it to ourselves. And so that's why you have to stop violence, and you have to at least have respect for life. That should be the basis. So respect life. And putting someone in prison for their life is just as damaging. It is by killing them is probably merciful, right? In a sense. Right? But we don't want to kill them and we don't want to chop their head off in town square because we don't want to see the fucking horrible human beings that we are who do that.
Right.
So now we do it behind curtains and we do it with drugs, and so we don't have to think about it, and we certainly don't have to see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also capital punishment doesn't jive with like the currency we've defined as the currency of punishment, which is time. For every other crime, the currency is money and time. You pay a fine, you pay your legal fees, and you sit it out for as long as we deem necessary for you to have repaid your debt to society. It's all currency. But then with the death penalty, it's like, you did this though, and so that, it's not keep you as long, those 400 years we sentenced you to. It's like, we got to up it and kill you, but you're changing it to a different currency. And it doesn't jive with like the whole logic that you said.
And people will often say to me, well, what if somebody killed your wife or somebody killed your daughter? When you want them dead? And I say, I want them dead when they get my order wrong in the fucking drive-thru. I want them dead. And you know what that means? You don't let the victim dole out the punishment, because then you're going to have a real brutal society. So that's why you have an impartial. It's supposed to be an impartial, impassioned decision. That's what it's supposed to be. That's why you have a judge who's not supposed to be impassioned. And that's why you keep a safe society and we can have values. Because otherwise you're just giving in to urges of vengeance and that creates an ugly society.
Damn it, Jimmy. You just made me even more liberal.
It's just
all right. Let's forget the break. Just keep on rolling.
Keep going.
Let's do as many stories as we can.
RoboCop's real. How about that for a headline? Stanford Shopping Center in beautiful Palo Alto, California, which is the really, really expensive Rodeo Drive type shopping center in Palo Alto, California, has a new cop on the street, and we've got a video of it. Let's take a look.
I thought it looked like a very large. I thought it looked like a very large vibrator.
That's what I thought it looked like.
Yeah, I didn't want to take everything.
Are we? Can they hear us now?
I think
Yeah. Okay. Good. So this is agreed.
So what does it do? It just drives around like that? That doesn't seem useful.
Well, I'm glad you asked, Jimmy, because I have a graphic for this. The features of the robots that they're using that looks like a Dalek, sort of a phallic Dalek from Doctor Who. It has a HD infrared cameras, microphone, so it listens for things like the shattering of glass. It can intercept mobile pings from cellular devices, which is much more terrifying than the first two.
Yes.
And it can scan up to 300 plates per minute.
What is a plate?
License plate.
Oh.
300 license plates in a minute. As for the design of the iRobot, as we're calling it, the Stacy Dean Stevens, who is the co-founder of Nightscope, the company that created this robot, we could have gone two ways with the design, friendly or ominous. But you don't want to scare everyone and make them not like the tech. You want it to be comforting, like a police officer. I thought you would.
I grew up in a minority community.
You want to walk the fine line between having a commanding presence and not scaring grandma or little Jamie. I thought you'd like that quote.
Okay. So they're right. I guess designing it like a small vibrator does make it a little bit more friendly. And apparently they've gotten a lipstick on a couple of them. Women are coming up and kissing them. So that's very cute. And it's funny how marketing works, right? You make it look a little cute instead of like RoboCop and threatening and stuff. And people are like, oh, it's great. It's got all my information. That's terrific. Wait a minute. Right?
Yeah.
So look, let's talk about its upside. Its upsides are real. Okay. We don't live in a black and white world. So, for example, they've got different kinds of lists, right, that the robot is keeping track of. So one thing is a blacklist. Now, how do you get on the robot's blacklist? I know it sounds absurd, right? But there's a real reason for it, and it's important. So if somebody's got a restraining order on you, right, and they work at that mall, and the robot has their license plate, and it picks up, oh, someone on the blacklist is in the mall, and it lets the cops know. And that could really help somebody. That could maybe save their lives, etc. A disgruntled former employee, right? You don't want him coming back and shooting the whole place up. He's on the blacklist. His license plate shows up. They don't necessarily come and arrest him, but they come and investigate it, right? And the robot gives them lead time to do that because he picks it up right away. And in fact, they claim that in Sandy Hook, if the cops had gotten there 60 seconds earlier, they could have saved 12 more lives. Now, I don't know how true that is, but if it's remotely true, you go, okay, I got it. Speed matters. And so having a robot there might be able to get the cops there quicker, etc., right? So I've given a lot of upsides to this, and then that's where most people end the conversation. They go, that's it, we're saving lives. We're saving lives. It's over, right? Now, the downside is it's recording all the license plates. It's recording everything. Now, we live, it's Big Brother. We're recording everything, right? So I don't know what I'm going to do wrong at the mall. I literally couldn't come up with an example after a while. Then I got one at the end, which I'll tell you about in a second. But I was like, but still, I don't want to be recorded. I don't want to be recorded 24/7 in case I do something wrong slightly. Like, if I'm doing something really wrong, I punch somebody in the face, okay, fair enough, right? But, like, I don't know. And I couldn't, but the idea of, like, well, if you're not guilty, then you got nothing to worry about. But who wants to be recorded at all hours of the day and all the times? You never do anything wrong. And remember, so one of the things that I remembered was Donald Trump, when he was defending Bill Clinton's morals back in the 1990s, and he wrote this in a book, said, those conservative guys are all hypocrites. Because, they're being moralists against Bill Clinton's sexual shenanigans, right? Now, he's turned around and called Bill Clinton a rapist. That's Donald Trump for you. But anyway, back then he was defending him, and he said, I know because one of the congressmen was at one of my hotels with his mistress, and another conservative pundit was at one of my resorts with with his girlfriend or whatever. Oh, so he's tracking everybody that comes to his hotels and his resorts. Yeah. You give people the power to track people, and they will use it, right? All of a sudden, now again, we're happy that we found out Ray Rice was beating his, fiancée at the time. But you're a famous person in that case. They're recording everything you do at a casino because there's cameras everywhere, right? And if you would grab your crotch at the wrong time, well, you're going to get busted just the same. And whatever. I mean, I don't know. Is that a thing people do? But right. You see what I'm saying? You can't do anything wrong, and it's just too oppressive. And then I came up with an example of where this could be deeply problematic. Some malls, probably not the Rodeo Drive of Palo Alto, right. But some malls have massage parlors.
Oh,
okay. Thank goodness.
AMPs. Asian massage parlors.
Okay. Yeah. I hadn't heard that before. Okay, so now
you don't go to the websites I go to.
Apparently not. That's right. But I like how it took me a while to come up with this example. No, but seriously. And then I remembered, there was the Christian moralists fundamentalists, and we did a story a couple of years ago. They would go to those strip malls and they'd write down the license plates of the guys who were going to get a massage. And then they'd go and try to find their wives or their girlfriends or whoever, right? And if they were single, they'd just report them to their church. They're going to judge no matter what, right? Now, you don't need those schmucks out there writing the license plate. You got a robot to do it for you. Now, all of your privacy up in smoke. I don't know. I don't want to live in that world.
It's funny that you said Big Brother. On the show Big Brother, there's a robot that shows up called Zingbot, and it looks exactly like this. And it since it's been watching the whole time, it has jokes about each contestant. And I would love this one to be like, I saw you in the massage parlor yesterday. Zing.
So am I crazy or does that make sense, right? But by the way, it doesn't matter what I think because we're never going to be able to walk this back.
No, this is here. The premises are the same in the story of I was able to save the people because I had surveillance.
Yes.
And it's the same premise in this happened that I have no privacy left because there is surveillance. And those are two different sci-fi movies, and they are equally disturbing. Or maybe it's the same sci-fi movie and it's disturbing, but and this is an old discussion that we have to always have our security versus our privacy, and which is which. And it's tough because that exactly what you said. If you are not doing anything wrong, what's the problem? But it's a lot of what I need to be able to do to feel free is to feel like no one's watching. I don't know.
And here, I'll give you a real life example. When I was younger and I was in New York City, we'd get drunk. Okay, shocking. Okay.
We have the video. Let's roll it.
Right. Well, no, we don't have the video, and that's exactly the point of the story. The one time I'm drunk and I'm fucking pissed, but it's New York City, and they won't let you into the different restaurants, etc. So I go around the corner and I pissed. Okay, so I shouldn't have done that. It's in public. So, you know that now some kids or adults who are urinating in public are being put on the sex offender registry because they exposed themselves in public, even if no one saw it. I mean, I guess somebody had to see it to arrest them. But oh my God, something you did because it's inappropriate, it's wrong, right? But it's not the end of the world, right? That you did when you were young, and that's it. Your life is ruined. And that sucks. I don't want to live in that world.
And you know what's funny? It just shows you how arbitrary law can be, and that a cop can make you a criminal if he feels like it, right? No matter what you're doing. Because when I went to Amsterdam, I don't know if you've ever been, First thing I noticed was in the town square, like in the middle of the street, there'll be like this, what do you call it, Lazy Susan kind of, with urinals. And there's no doors, and you just walk right up to them, and men are peeing right in the middle of the street. Right thing in Amsterdam. Have you?
No, but I want to go right now. Are you kidding?
Someone told me about this on the way over. I'm like, they're bullshitting. They're trying to get me to piss in public. Like, this is some kind of a flower thing, and I don't know it, and I'm going to look like an idiot. I'm like, no, son of a bitch, they were. And you can go pee right. This whole thing about public urination, it's just made up.
And by the way, who do they enforce it on? That's a whole other.
That's another thing
They're
too,
all
right?
made up. They're all made up. All the laws are made up.
Yeah, all laws are made up.
You know what we used to do as humans a lot? Public urination.
Yeah,
there was no private. It was all
public,
outdoors.
Right. But now with RoboCops in every mall, don't you dare do it.
The only place you couldn't shit was where you ate. Like, that was the rule.
I believe that's the rule. There's a saying about that.
That's the only one rule that we didn't make up. Like, that wouldn't make sense.
So I vote no. It'll be a vote that goes into the abyss because these RoboCops are coming to a mall near you, and yes, somebody will use it to judge.
So now, if they don't have this thing, they'll just put it into a security camera and have the security camera have that same kind of thing. So instead of having it on wheels where you can see it, they'll just figure out a way to make it invisible.
And it's probably already there. Like, whenever you see something
they have eye scanners,
in a public place, there's always like, we found who did it because of the video, and that's great. But like, out on the street, I tell myself, but I find myself coming down on the side of like, if I'm not doing anything wrong, why do I care? And that relies fundamentally on a trust in law enforcement.
Yeah,
to take advantage of.
If you're not doing go ahead, Jack. If you're not doing anything wrong, maybe your girlfriend's brother is the sheriff, and he's got a fucking hard on for you, and he wants to take some information and blackmail you with it or screw you over, and that stuff happens.
And I'm not saying that I would be right in having a full, but I would have to have a full. I find myself having full confidence when every day I see stories where I should.
Let's say, Brett, that you were in some kind of a news organization that wanted to upset the establishment. You wanted to take the money away out of politics, which is out of the news media, and they bribed some cops to go put together some stuff to get rid of these fucking guys who are upsetting their apple cart, and they wanted to smear you and do it. They're doing it right now to Bernie Sanders and they without any information. Imagine if they had information on you and they wanted to silence you, they would do it.
Yeah.
So that's it's not you. It's not the guy who's driving a pretzel truck or a beer truck or doing any kind of truck. It's people who are agitators against the system. That's who needs the protection from stuff like this. It is not regular. People go, why would I care unless I'm doing something? Well, it's not you, and it's not the guy watching the Cubs game on his couch. It's the guy who's agitating against the powerful that needs this kind of protection, because those are the people that they come down with on this stuff. I'm right about this, right, Jake?
Yes, that's exactly like. There's a rule that if you take out more than $10,000 cash from the bank, they have to report that to the government because they don't want you to money launder, right? Now, you can argue against the rule, but I get it overall, right? But if you get close to $10,000, sometimes they'll report it too because they don't want you to evade that law by taking out $9,900, right? So they're not dumb. They know some people do that, right? But in the case of Elliot Spitzer, they went all the way down to $5,000 because they wanted to get Elliot Spitzer because he was the sheriff of Wall Street, and he was hurting the profits of the Wall Street bankers. So the government asked his own bank, hey, just let us know whenever he takes out any cash, and then they use that as an excuse to track him, and when they tracked him, they caught him with prostitutes. And all of a sudden, the guy who was challenging the powerful and was the sheriff of Wall Street, gone. There is no more sheriff.
There is no more.
And you know what happened? The robbers then continued to rob, and then they crashed the economy.
Just like they got Capone on income tax, they got Spitzer on cum tax.
Okay, but by the way, it's always the sex. So it's always. You know why? Because we all have sex.
Yeah,
and there's like, I don't know. I guess there's some percentage of the population. Luckily, I'm so busy, I guess I'm in that percentage now. I don't know if that's a lucky thing or an unlucky thing that has boring sex lives where you just do the right things, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And all you want to do is download Tinder and
right.
Tell me about it, stupid girlfriend.
Right, but But a lot of people do the wrong things because they're human beings, right? And they go here instead of there, and they sleep with that person instead of that person, and next thing you know, oh, look at that, you're eliminated, right? So this is their, yes.
And so if they want to eliminate someone, they know that you did something that's worth being eliminated for. They just need to go find it.
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody's done something, right? So that's all that is. And they were like, well, Elliot's done something. He's a grown-up with money and power. He's done something. Let's go find him. And they used the Patriot Act to go after him.
And what's worse, it was super fun.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
And that really gets under people's skin. I'm not having fun. Why are you having fun? Well, I don't get to be with those gorgeous women. Why do you get to be with those gorgeous women? That's it. You're out. You're out. Okay? But wait, I was trying to protect you from the guys who were going to rob you of billions of dollars and $2 trillion of your retirement savings. I was trying to protect you from, no, you were with that attractive woman, and I don't get to be with her. I'm going to judge you. You're gone. Oh, shit, I just lost my retirement. Well, oops. And you know what? That's all because of this goddamn RoboCop.
That's right.
Thank you for your cooperation. All right, let's go forward.
You got more? All right,
Let's do one more.
One more. Okay, do you want furniture with guns in it, or the evolutionary reason why you
that one?
Yeah. Oral sex. Come on.
Oral sex? Oral
So
sex?
let's talk about Wicker. Yes, let's talk about oral sex.
Okay, I didn't know. There were two. All right. Turns out there's an evolutionary reason why you would engage in oral sex and why you should do it. There's a study that recently came out from the Medical Daily. They did a 2013 study of 243 men in long-term heterosexual partnership to find out what is it that gets it going, and they found out that oral sex played a role. They said, quote, if women are getting off enough with their current sex partners, they might be less likely to cheat. And then on the flip side, fellatio, their evolutionary benefits, swallowing semen could potentially reduce a life-threatening pregnancy-related condition. And
think about it.
Basically,
Introduce
introduce her body to your seed, which is invading it, and it'll be more accommodating to it. It'll learn to stop freaking out.
Don't freak out.
Don't freak out.
Don't freak out. We already have a t-shirt about it.
Don't freak out.
Okay.
But yeah, so the long reason was, those are basically the two takeaways.
I want Jimmy to try to explain this whole story when he's trying to get oral sex. No, honey, you see, I need your body to not freak out.
So I can impregnate you. It's the next part.
Right.
This is for our family.
Right.
It's just so we can have a family. Now, swallow.
Yeah.
So I had heard that study before. I don't know if you guys had about blowjobs actually being good for the woman. It sounds funny every time you say it. At least if they're
It's good for you.
It really is. It really is. But you do have to actually swallow, otherwise it's pointless.
Right. First of all, eat your vitamins. First, do your vitamins, and now.
So, and now what we're talking about is
the spoonful of going down makes the. I don't know.
Okay, we're talking about evolution here. We're not. I don't want anyone dirty thoughts here. Okay, that's not what this program's about. Okay, we're talking about important science. So now there's that side of it. But what I hadn't heard about is the oral sex that guys do for women and how that has an evolutionary advantage. Right?
Cunnilingus?
Basically,
Now, how does that help?
So the way it helps, the long version of it is the research showed that men who are most likely to report getting their partner to orgasm during oral sex, the more likely that she was to reach an orgasm during oral sex, they thought like, oh, this woman must be more sought after because she loves sex. She loves getting off because she's able to. Therefore, the more eager the men were to please their partners, therefore, the more eager men are to please partners believed to have better options out there, and the more likely they may be to perform cunnilingus to keep their mates from cheating. Basically, they said like
it's not really a biological benefit; it's more of a psychological benefit that the woman won't feel a need to go cheat because she's getting it at home.
Biological because you don't want another person's seed getting into your woman.
Right.
Okay, because then you're going to be raising the wrong DNA.
Right.
So if you keep her happy, she'll stay at home, and hence, then it'll be your DNA that.
But that's what they used to say about to women. Like, you got to keep your man happy.
Right. And
that's what gives the horse the power. If you don't keep him happy at home, I heard that's a direct quote.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I heard that over a fence. And
really?
yeah.
Nice.
I was tuck pointing at the time. Go ahead.
But that's of course true of both, because I don't know if you know this, but both men and women are prone to cheat, and that's because that's also in our DNA. Because men want to spread their seed. You've heard that 1,000 times. But what you don't know, or what you haven't heard as many times, is women are designed to have sex with several different men, and in fact, there are at the same time. By the way,
yes.
I mean, that's very close to one another. That is why the male penis is designed as both a suction and a shovel. Okay, so it's supposed to suck out the other guy's semen, both as the shovel, the head, and the foreskin is supposed to be the suction. This is literal. I did a whole interview with a guy who wrote a book about this, okay? Because it assumes, based on our biology, that the woman just had sex with someone else a couple of hours ago.
Yeah.
Okay? So it didn't assume that by mistake. It's part of evolution. And that means that happened all the time. So that's why you had to design the penis to look like that. There's nobody designing the penis, but you see my point, right? So that we both cheat. We both have sex with a lot of different people if you let us, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you got to hurry up and go down on her, otherwise she's going to go get filled up with, some other guy's semen. It's reality.
Yeah, and that exists in other beings as well. Like salmon, for salmon fishing, the way you fish for salmon is to use salmon eggs from another salmon. So they wake up in the morning and they go around and try to eat all the other eggs out there that aren't theirs. And that's the best way to catch a salmon, because they're just trying to make sure that they are the ones doing all the sexual procreating out there and getting rid of any competition. This is, they say, is a means of going out and making sure that your woman does not feel the need to go to other people.
You're telling me that the penis is shaped in a way that it is a shovel and a
suction.
That is
basically a Dyson.
That is contact.
Okay, by the way,
it is. I thought the armadillo was nature's little tank, and now,
way to go, penis!
I'm finding out that the penis is the ultimate extractor and injector at this. It is.
It's literally an extractor and an injector at the same time.
Even Caterpillar hasn't come up with that yet.
It does sound like a Dyson. I maybe like the Dyson commercial guy to be like, it never loses suction.
It never. We base this vacuum on the male's foreskin. And what we do, it's a cyclonic foreskin, and no one else has it. Look at it. It's the smegma comes in at the border.
Oh God. There's 9 animals. There's a bunch of animals that have oral sex for fun.
No kidding.
Oh, great. Let's get
which one? Well, are any of them? I've dated a few of them.
The first fruit bats.
Okay.
There was a study on fruit bats that they the guy licks himself and then goes and licks her, and the women who the oral sex was performed on, the female fruit bats, last longer during sex for some reason, which is the opposite of human.
Yeah. Okay, can I just say, so that reminds me of the oldest joke I probably know. Why does a dog lick his balls?
Mm-hmm.
Because he can.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's amazing, like, it's funny, like, guys, like, we can't, generally speaking, for men, right? So, and they're like, now, like, since we can't, we're like, oh, it's disgusting. Like, oh, like, you wouldn't use your mouth on yourself, right? You use your hand on yourself.
Yeah, I would. Right? I would in a second.
So, you've actually given thousands of hand jobs. Right? You think you wouldn't if you could? So don't judge the bat there, okay? Because you secretly are also Batman.
Oh, it's so good. Other animals that self-fellate are goats, kangaroos, walruses, Cape ground squirrels, who do it after sex to reduce the risk of sexually transmitted infections. That the study.
Well, I'd like to find a different way to reduce that risk.
Sheep, dogs, cats, hyenas, like they do. The bonobo monkey. Have you heard of that one?
Bonobo.
Yeah, the bonobo monkeys use sex frequently instead of violence to solve problems.
Yeah.
So they do oral sex. They kiss. They like French kiss.
Really?
And they use it to solve problems in between bonobo monkeys.
Yeah, and one of them wrote a book called The Art of the Deal.
The Art of the Deal.
And then a fat one wrote a book called The Art of the Meal.
Yeah, there you go.
But either way, they're eating.
They're eating.
Yeah, so that's that.
So there's that other joke, right? So, the other joke is I was walking down the street, I saw this dog licking his balls, And I said, boy, I wish I could do that. And the owner said, yeah, you should pet him first.
Okay. Now, I'm going to needless to say on a serious note here, but all the moralizing that we all do, we judge each other, and there's whole books that we pray to that are based around judging each other and stuff. So the salmon story. So they're cannibals. The salmons are cannibals. They just go eat each other's young, right?
Yeah.
So like it'd be like, oh, hey, look, Brett just had a kid. Let's eat it, right? That would be the equivalent. And by the way, so lions do this too. Several different species do this. So when they want to have sex with a female lion, if she's got kids, they immediately kill them and eat them. So that they can impregnate, so the lion's now out of kids, right? The female lions. All right, fine, let's have sex, right? So, and by the way, in nature, I don't know what sex, rape, whatever you want to call it, right? So now, are all lions going to hell? Absurd, right? But yet, our particular sexual proclivities, God doesn't mind the lion doing the cannibal and the killing and raping and all doing that and eating the fucking babies. But you jerked off, so God's going to bring you down. Absurd, man.
God is very peculiar. God is very peculiar.
Yes,
don't try to understand God.
Yeah, he's like, oh, bonobo monkeys, no problem. No, lions, salmon, no problem at all. Oh, that animal right there, the Homo sapien. I'm going to structure the whole universe around that one. I'm watching you. Right. Pretty sure that's not how it works. Okay. God bless Fred Ehrlich. Everybody check him out on Pop Trigger. Jimmy Dore. Check him out on TYT Politics on the Jimmy Dore Show. And go to JimmyDoreComedy.com. Help him raise money for his studio so his channel can be bigger and better. Much love, everybody. We'll see you guys on Monday. Bye-bye. Thanks for being members.